going to have to cut Joe Pacheco off in the middle of a big sentence there.
Yeah, let's put his face right there with the background.
Yeah. Okay, good evening, folks. Thank you for joining us this evening on the 28th of October. So to start off our meeting this evening, I'd like a motion on the minutes.
Move to accept the minutes as printed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes from last meeting are approved. We have with us tonight the Director of Community Planning and Development, and he, as you all know, is John Charbonneau. John, please join us.
Good evening. In the report, the monthly report that I submitted to you, the first item is very good news. The application that was submitted to the South Coast Rail Technical Assistance Program has been awarded to the town of Raynham. So very shortly, work will begin on an informational brochure that will contain economic development information that will be published, and copies of which will be kept at the Taunton Area Chamber of Commerce when it is complete for distribution to any businesses looking to locate in the region, marketing the town of Raynham as a destination for them. So that's very good news, and that will be done by the end of the fiscal year, which will be June 30th, 2015 is when it'll have to be done. So we'll be working with the Regional Planning Agency on that.
Excellent news.
On November 20th, the Planning Board meeting, the only agenda item will be a public workshop at which the Town Administrator, the Board of Selectmen, and the Route 138 Steering Committee, as well as any members of the public who wish to attend. It will be a public workshop to discuss the Route 138 corridor from Route 495 to the Taunton City line, and discussions that have happened over the years and where Route 138 stands now, and where the town wants to see Route 138 go, where people think it's going, any changes that should be made potentially to the zoning to help prepare for that evolution of Route 138. So there's been work in the past with the Regional Planning Agency and the Route 138 Steering Committee, ideas and concerns tossed back and forth, and the Planning Board believes that this is a logical step to get the Selectmen, the Route 138 Steering Committee, and the public out to openly discuss it and to let the people who live and operate on 138 have their voices be heard. So that's the goal of the meeting on November 20th, and we'll see where we go from there. Now that another town meeting's done, naturally work on zoning bylaw amendments for the next town meeting has been ongoing. I'm currently working with the new building commissioner on the zoning table that I had mentioned at a previous meeting. Obviously, with Dennis Machado leaving and a new building commissioner coming on, there was no activity on that for a little bit, but now it's picking up steam again, and Bob and I will be meeting on that because we'll also be looking, as we develop a zoning use table for the zoning bylaws to make it more user-friendly, we start to discover other inconsistencies and other redundancies within the zoning bylaws. For instance, you know, an auto salvage yard or junkyard is referred to in 3 different ways throughout the zoning bylaws. So, you know, there are ways that we can maybe move things around to make the zoning bylaws more concise and user-friendly. One idea that's been talked about is, you know, we have an Article 10, which is definitions, but yet we also have definitions of different terms sprinkled throughout the zoning bylaws. Let's take everything, put it all in one section, and make it clearer. So we'll be discussing things. So you'll see zoning bylaw amendments coming forward in the next year or two. Hopefully that will make the zoning bylaws more user-friendly and more easier to understand, hopefully.
When you get through putting that all together, are you going to put it in any kind of a book form?
As far as, no, well, the thing is, this isn't going to be a...
You don't have to do it as a bound, but even if you did it as a 3-hole punch type of a book so that you can change things as we go along.
Yeah, we'll see how we go. You know, we'll start with the use table and see what things we pick up from there. And then, you know, we're not sure, we haven't really discussed whether the zoning bylaws need to be totally reworked or if we need to just make incremental changes here or there. You know, one thing that I've noticed with our zoning bylaws is, you know, for instance, you have Article 4 has all the permitted uses in the various zoning districts. Then 3 chapters later, you have all the special permitted uses for those same districts. Other zoning bylaws that I've read have it formatted differently where For instance, one chapter is just your residential A district. Here's all your permitted uses, here's all your special permitted uses, and all your other regulations relating to that zoning district. And then the next article deals with the business district and the industrial district. So I find in going through our zoning bylaws, Bob and I have found that you're having to do a lot of jumping around from article to article to say, okay, I want to find out about the business district, but I've got a little bit in this article to look at. Then I have to go to Article 7, back to Article 4. So I think that's where we're moving towards, is to kind of reorder things to make it
Streamline.
one-stop shopping if you want to look at a zoning district. Whereas right now you have to jump around a little bit too much, and it can be a little bit confusing. So that's the way we're thinking, and we're not sure if, we can probably do this a little bit at each town meeting, and then we'll get there. So we'll see how that goes. We're just sitting down and talking about that now. So, and that's one thing Bob is really interested in doing, is really making our zoning bylaws a lot more effective. So.
Excellent,
Mhm.
excellent.
Also, I have a letter that I would like the selectmen to endorse tonight that I've previously sent out in an email. As you know, Mass DOT rejected our application to add logo signs on Route 24, making motorists aware of the proximity of the Raynham Auto Mile and the Raynham Woods Commerce Center, which everyone I've spoken to and myself agree we don't understand. I mean, I did some driving around a couple weeks ago, and I have some photo depictions in this letter that I'm preparing to go to Mass DOT rebutting their denial and asking them to reconsider. I did some driving up in my neck of the woods on 495 in the Franklin, Massachusetts area, and there are signs right on 495 for the Rentham outlets, for the Forge Parkway, for Constitution Boulevard in Franklin, which are their commerce parks. So why is Mass Highway telling us we can't have a sign for the Raynham Woods Commerce Center? So this is something I've talked to each of you individually about, and I think we agreed this is the next logical step to prepare a letter of rebuttal with the selectman's signature. So I'd be asking the selectman to endorse this when I'm done here tonight, so I could send it out to Mass DOT. And within the letter, after speaking with Chairman Shivo about this, I've offered to have myself and Chairman Shivo, if they would like, sit down with Mass Highway District 5 and explain the town's position and the importance of adding these signs on Route 24. And I've also added the request to have a logo potentially put up relating to the Buddhist temple, considering the fact that it is a tourist destination. It is the second largest temple in the world, so I think that is worth noting as well. So if they stand hard and fast on the other two, maybe at least we can get a logo sign for that, because I would think that meets their definition of a tourist attraction. So I would ask the Board of Selectmen to endorse this letter that I had prepared. That is what I had sent out previously in email form. Finally, I had mentioned the work that's beginning to clean up certain properties, especially on Route 138, and look at these properties that have become eyesores and potential public safety and health hazards. And the work has begun with the property at 1700 Broadway, which is the truck store, which is, I think, across from the Dunkin' Donuts on the north end of Route 138. There's a meeting set up on November 6th. It was set up by the building commissioner with the owner of that property. From the feedback I've gotten from the building commissioner, the property owner has been very receptive and has agreed to start cleaning up his property. There are numerous vehicles, both registered and unregistered, as well as storage containers that, when you look at the town GIS from the aerial photograph, it does not look good. So so far the property owner has been very receptive. In addition, there have been some questions about the fence, the chain link fence in front of the property, and whether or not that's actually on state property. So I did contact Mass DOT week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and they're going to be sending a survey crew out in the next week or so to actually survey to determine whether or not the fence is on state land. At that point, we'll examine our options, because he said usually they're the ones who will do the survey, and then we'll determine if it is on their property, what do we want to do about it. So that's the first step, is do a survey to determine if it's on state property or not. That's it.
Any questions?
Would you need a motion for that letter, though?
Sure. I'd be happy to make a motion, ask for a motion.
I will move to sign and endorse the letter that he has for Love.
Second.
Yep, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, yep, we
Okay.
continue on. The one thing that you mentioned, John, that I think bears repeating, is your workshop on November 20th. And I really do hope that the word gets out that we're trying to be inclusive, not just of the property owners on 138, but those who abut behind the property owners on 138. Let's
Absolutely.
get both, because they have both groups have different points of view, and if we can bring that all together, maybe we can get people to think about the revitalization,
Right.
which is really the focus that we've always had with regard to 138, so.
And the
hopefully
zoning is
we-
just part of that.
Yeah, zoning is part of it, the revitalization is the big picture, and anybody who has a concern or an interest, please attend the workshop. This
Absolutely.
is John's effort to bring everybody together.
And
Great
I
idea.
reached out to Mark LaRock with the Taunton Gazette today,
Yep.
and also the young lady with the Raynham Call, to put articles in the paper leading up to that meeting, and also having them in attendance at that meeting to get the word out there. And because up until now, there's been work done by a committee here, a committee there,
Yeah.
but when I took a step back over the summer and talked to the residents who actually live on Route 138, the response was really surprising and unexpected, contrary to what the feedback I had received from previously when I actually reached out directly to the people on 138. They really want to see something happen. So
Yeah,
this
well,
isn't.
but
this
that's
is an
my
attempt.
point. My point, John, is we need to bring that group as well as the abutters behind that group so that we can try to get some balance in the overall
Exactly.
perspective. And I applaud you for reaching out to them, and I just hope that anybody that has a perspective, a position on this, takes the time to attend so that you can bring that perspective together.
And if something's going to happen, that's where it needs to start. It needs to happen with the people directly affected and outward, and it's ultimately a town-wide issue as well.
Sure.
Right.
Thank you, John, for your report. Okay, we have, no, thank you, John. Yep, we'll take care of that. No appointments, no public hearing. Any new business?
None?
None? We do have a proposal from GATRA for the bus route, and I don't know, you all are in the back for a Walmart type of thing. So we do have a person here that wants to speak on behalf of the proposal by GATRA, and please, Karen, take the.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak before you regarding this new proposal from GATRA. For the record, my name is William Rosa. I'm an attorney at Win & Win, which is 90 New State Highway in Raynham, Massachusetts. Got my notes on the table. It might be helpful for those of you, many of you have been on the board for a while since Walmart was originally permitted and now finally built, but it might be helpful to have a brief history of this. This whole idea of having a bus route that would service the new Walmart in Raynham started in 2006 with the final environmental impact report by the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. And at that point in time, as part of their final review, they indicated that they wanted to see, as part of the mitigation package, a bus route established going to the new Walmart and put it in as a part of the mitigation that was done by Walmart in addition to all the other things that have been done. Based with that in mind, when they constructed the property, they actually built the ramp and everything that would service a bus station for the handicapped as well as anyone else. And it had always been their intention as part of finishing up this whole project to attempt to get a GATRA stop at that location. The Office of Transportation, in their comments to the final ERA, also indicated that they wished that a bus stop be established there and that Walmart should do what it can to see that that occurred. We went forward when we finally got the temporary occupancy permit in March when the store finally opened. We then began to pick through some of these loose ends, if you will, that hadn't been done, and one of them was this whole issue of the bus stop. We approached GATRA about establishing a stop. They indicated that their process was that the planning board should initiate the idea. That's where it came through the planning board. So we approached the planning board. They sent a letter to GATRA saying that they were in favor of it and would ask them to move forward to establish it. Once that contact was made, we approached GATRA. They wanted to see some plans. We took them down there. They actually saw the ramp that was built. We supplied them with a copy of the shelter that we were proposing for the bus stop, because there'll be a shelter there as well. And the last conversation we had with them was that they were satisfied with both the shelter and the access, and Walmart's ready to put the shelter out to bid to get going on that, if we can establish the bus route. So we're moving along at that point. Then obviously they had to establish the route, and Randy Buckner has been helpful in talking with Frank Gay from GATRA to see that moves on. So we believe that the establishment of the bus route is clearly a benefit to the town of Raynham. I mean, I'd be asking you to, it's clearly a benefit to Walmart, don't get me wrong, but it's clearly a benefit to the town of Raynham. It does a few things. One, it benefits the whole, what currently is the retail section of Route 138, because the stop's going to be at the Market Basket. There's going to be a stop at the Walmart. There's actually going to be a stop in Taunton at the new store that's in Taunton as well, which doesn't benefit Raynham. But I think after listening to the town planner just before talking about this whole rezoning, this master plan for Route 138, it's very logical to suggest that going down the road, 138 is going to change. Probably more commercial industrial use, maybe not. It all depends what the steering committee does with it. But I think that's the logical extension of what's already happening out there. And this could be the first step, if you will, of helping to establish that district, because you've got to stop now at the Market Basket, which could be continued up towards Easton as property develops. So it makes a lot of sense in terms of the use of the 138 corridor. It benefits the Raynham residents as well, because the stops that the GATRA has put into it, one is over on Mill Street, so we've got a senior citizen housing complex there that will stop there. They'll be able to pick up a bus there and use it to access the Market Basket, access the Walmart. If they want to go into the center of Taunton, that will be a connection for them to get to the center of Taunton for some of the courts and things of that nature that they probably have difficulty getting to now with not having a lot of vehicular abilities. So I think it also stops at the King Philip Apartments, which is one of the larger apartment complexes, and I suspect that Mr. Noblin would think that it would be a benefit to his tenants as well as to have that there. The other thing that we believe will occur, and we can't promise this or we can't be sure of, is that we may be able to pick up some potential employees from Raynham who can use the bus service to get to Walmart rather than they don't have a car, especially part-time employees who may not have cars, odd hours during the course of the day, mother-in-law hours, things of that nature. So it makes some sense to have bus service, which will allow us to build ourselves to get to work, get home from work. So we believe that for all those reasons, this is a benefit both to the town, to the 138 corridor, and to the general area which GATRA serves. GATRA doesn't have great statistics on its website that you can get into on the website, but I did happen to take a quick look on this, and to my surprise, the Attleboro, Taunton, and Raynham routes that exist service over 125,000 people a quarter. There's a lot of people who actually use those bus routes. I'm not cognizant of that, but if you look at the statistics, their performance report, there's a lot of people using those fixed bus routes, not the dial rides. So there's certainly a pent-up demand, we think. And to that end, I've brought with me Ashley Barveras, who's the store manager. But before she comes up, what I'd like to give to you is just basically what I've just told you about. This is a little packet that includes the 206 recommendation. It includes the planning board letter. It includes the information regarding the route itself. I have the statistics attached to it as well. So it's just a little packet of information which you may or may not have already gotten. So if I can hand those out.
Thank you, Bob. Nice to see you.
So with that in mind, I'd like to call out Ashley Barveras, who is, as I said, the new store manager for the Walmart here in Raynham, and she's got some additional information to present.
Good evening. Ashley Barveras, store manager of the 160 Broadway Walmart store. We actually, first of all, very happy to be here this evening, and I just brought with me, we actually just decided to gauge what the public interest may perhaps be in the store from where our clientele stands. In a 3-day period, we were able to collect just over 800 signatures in support of this bus route. From both employees who would benefit, Raynham employees who would benefit using that to commute back and forth to work, and also our customer base. So if I may, I'd like to present the binder with the signatures.
They all look different, too.
We should. But no, so obviously, you know, we were able to gain some backing on that, and definitely showed some support, and obviously we're in support of the proposed bus route. So I just wanted to come by this evening and drop that off.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Ashley. Thanks very much. And who's your colleague back there? Is that your shotgun?
Yes, she drove. No.
Co-pilot?
She's with Walmart. She's the community liaison, if you will. She's the person who arranges for these type of things for the Walmart for this general area. We did reach out to the people from Market Basket, to the people from Rite Aid. We talked to the Housing Authority, and I suspect, and the Elderly Affairs, and we've positive feedback from each of them. I won't speak for, I believe she's going to speak at this point in time, but just to let you know, we did talk to some of the other people who would be directly affected by the institution of this bus service. So with that, I will,
Thank
unless you
Bob.
have any questions, I'll finish my remarks, and I'll turn
Any
it over
questions?
to, we have one other person I think wants to speak.
Yes, I know that. Any questions of Bob? Yeah, okay. Okay, please. Carol?
Good evening. My name's Karen Riley. I'm the Executive Director for the Raynham Housing Authority, and I'm here in support of the GATRA bus line. I have 86 tenants altogether, and I do have handicapped tenants that don't drive and elderly tenants that don't drive. So I feel that this would be very beneficial to them. I'd like to see them maybe expand the line over to the senior center too, because I think that would be helpful. In getting some of the tenants over to the senior center during the day, and I know that's just a hop and a skip from where we are. But I know some of my tenants work at Market Basket. I'm not aware of anyone that works at Walmart on 138 yet, but I'm sure that that would be a plus for them if they were to look for a position at Walmart. And they do support Walmart, and they do support Market Basket. So I'm in favor of it, and I'm speaking on behalf of all my tenants that we would welcome it to our complexes here in Raynham.
Thank you, Karen. Any questions of Karen? No. Okay, so does the board have questions of any of the comments that have been made?
From any comments? No.
Okay. So let me ask the board for their input with regard to this proposal. Where do we stand in this? Either one of you could take the lead.
Okay. First off, to say that I'm in favor of having a bus thing is fine. I am in favor of it. It comes at an awkward time for us, though, as it is in between town meetings, and we're not prepared at this particular time to invest in such an undertaking. We've heard figures being thrown out as to what it would cost, and like I said, at this point in time, we're not prepared. But I do have a question. If we do something like this, can it be on a temporary basis, say a trial basis, or do we have to commit to a specific time period?
I'll be perfectly honest, I don't know the answer to that. That would be something that GATRA would have to answer. I would suspect that there would be some flexibility there, though. But that's something I don't want to answer for GATRA. We had hoped maybe they might be here, but I don't know the answer to that.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
sorry, I wish I had it, but I don't know.
Yeah,
that.
that's all right, but that is a question
And
that I would
certainly
need.
the stops might be adjusted as well to enhance the
Right.
ridership as well. So I
Right.
think it's a work in progress, if you will.
Right. That would be a question that I would want answered. I
Okay.
would not want to commit to something a year, 2 years, 3 years, or whatever down the road on something like this. I want to see what the ridership would be, giving it a whatever month trial, 3 months, 6 months type of thing trial, to see what actually is going to be used before the town has to start spending money on it that it does not have at this particular time.
I'll be happy to discuss that with
Thank you, Bill.
Mr. Gay over at
Yep.
GATRA and get you an answer.
I think I agree with Mrs. Smith's point. This comes to us in the middle of a budget year, and this is new money that hadn't been appropriated. A few years ago when GATRA came to us and asked to expand their route, we all supported it. It came off the cherry sheet. So now this is new money in addition to the cherry sheet, so we'll be close to $100,000 a year to GATRA. 80%, and this is being generous, of this book is not Raynham residents, but yet we're being asked to spend Raynham dollars on it. And Bill, I don't doubt what you read on the website, but I doubt the numbers on the website. I've never seen a bus with more than 2 people on it. So how they come up with 1 million people a year in ridership, it boggles my mind. The numbers just aren't there. In 8 years on this board, I've never once got a call from a resident saying that they need GATRA bus service or asking to expand it. And we always support businesses and do our best to help them, but this is another example of Walmart coming in and asking for more resources from the town. And I'd like to see some space in between all these requests, because it's becoming, in my opinion, a little bit excessive. And again, 80% of that book, and that's being generous, is not Raynham signatures. And our job here is to represent the people of Raynham, and we have a fiduciary responsibility, and $18,000 is a decent sum of money. So my request and my motion would be to table this until the spring, when we start budget discussions, and in the meantime, any support and documentation that you or GATRA want to provide, we'd be welcome to read it, but I most definitely want to see firm numbers on Raynham ridership, because I don't believe it to be there.
Okay, before I'm sorry, go ahead,
But
Mary.
those have been numbers from their ridership period?
Well, that's what Bill said, but
No.
If you look into the materials that I gave you, there's a chart that shows the ridership. It was not 1 million a year. It's around 125,000 a quarter, so it'd be about half that.
okay.
Okay,
I'm not
so-
good with math,
Yeah.
though.
And unfortunately, the way they collect tolls and all, I'm not so sure they can break down, but we can certainly get some more information.
Yeah,
The other point that I just want to make in response to Mr. Pacheco's comment is, you're right, there was a number of Taunton people that signed that. But I think if you're looking at the economic viability of the new 138 corridor, you're going to have support from the Taunton community to support the businesses which will be in Raynham, but they're going to have Taunton people shopping at them. So I think there are certainly a number of Raynham residents that signed it as well. And to be honest with you, we had not an awful lot of time. We had less than a week when we realized we were going to have the hearing. But I just, it's important to kind of look at this long term. Is you're going to need the people from Taunton to boost through the Raynham, the stores as well. So for that reason, I certainly would. And as far as the timing, I mean, it's unfortunate. This is the timing it is. We've been working with GATRA since March to try to get something to you much before this, but it just didn't happen.
Oh, okay, well, Bill, let me summarize a few of the things that I've heard, okay? First of all, I think Karen's comment with regard to the senior center has some real merit, because just potentially, there, hypothetically, if we go forward with this, the senior center is a wealth of traffic in that area. So to contemplate a route that includes the senior center certainly adds a lot of value to it. So I think Karen's point's well taken. I think another point, going back to what Mr. Pacheco said, is we might, or you might, that is, explore with GATRA maybe some rate that is a bit more attractive. Maybe, given that we're taking $70,000 off the cherry sheet already, as Mr. Pacheco has already said, we may be able to get some, as we say in the office, some wiggle room. And so there may be a little bit of wiggle room there that might be appropriate. The next last thing I would say is that, as already has been indicated, it's unfortunate we just finished our budgeting period, so free cash is there, it's gone, and so to put to budget for this, or even a part of this right now, the timing isn't great. It really isn't. So, I don't think. I'm going to say that I personally, I think there's some real merit to this. I really do, and I take your point about the bigger picture on the 138 corridor, which I think has some real merit. And I think anything that helps Walmart is a positive thing, because they're part of the community, and I think they do a great job for us. So we want to be open-minded to that. We need to fit into the budget period so that we can, make things happen in a way which is financially responsible in terms of our own personal commitment. So let's pursue it. We're not against it in principle. We need to talk about some of the ideas that have been suggested and perhaps negotiate a little bit on the GATRA money. And the last point, which I want to make, which is what Mrs. Smith made here, And that is that if we did like a trial period, whatever that period is, 6 months, 4 months, 8 months, there needs to be some metric that we can get a handle on. So if we do 6 months, what's the metric? And so we can, we have an ability to make a judgment based on the actual results, not just throw a date out there. So if we have something that we can get a handle on, then we can make an informed judgment in front of the people and say, yep, we met that goal, that seems reasonable. So those would be my points. Anything else, Board?
No, I think you've probably covered it all, except for the fact that we still have a motion on the floor.
Okay, and the motion is?
To table it to the springtime with a hearing to be scheduled later and the request for additional information, including firm ridership statistics.
Okay.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you, Bill, appreciate it. And thank you, Ashley and Driver. Okay, so, any old business?
None.
None? Okay, we have the town administrator's report. Randy?
Thank you. Just a quick thank you to everyone who turned out for the fall town meeting last night. We can't do business without a quorum, and we got the quorum, and the meeting was efficiently run, as always, by Mr. Donahue. On the highway roof, we've got the go-ahead to do the highway roof now. There was a holdup, but now we're just waiting for the contractor to schedule the work, and obviously we want to get it done before winter, so we're pushing that. Next Selectmen's meeting, as you know, there's no meeting next Tuesday evening, which is Election Day. Instead, the board has scheduled a special meeting for Wednesday, November 5th at 10:30 a.m. And then upcoming, I have a number of meetings upcoming the next week, so I'll be busy. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Any questions?
No.
Okay, good. So, next on the agenda is Selectmen's report.
Since we won't be meeting next Tuesday, just remind everybody that there is the election next Tuesday, 7 a.m. to 8.
How could I have
Yes.
forgotten to remind you?
7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay,
Everybody
you.
vote.
thank you for reminding us, and that is important. Everybody do vote. So I have here, speaking of Walmart, they have a change of manager at the 36 Paramount Drive facility, and they're asking us to review this, and the name of the proposed individual, personal information is James, and I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it looks like Fauché would be the way I would pronounce it, and I hope I've done it right. So I'd like a motion to have Mr. Fauché come in next Wednesday at our 10:30 meeting. Would that be appropriate, or do you want to do it for the week after?
But he's gonna be,
There's no meeting the week after.
no meeting
Okay,
the week
so-
after. So
so-
that would make it the week after that,
The week after that?
which would end up to be what?
21st.
The
21st?
21st of,
What would you
I
prefer?
would, I would request
I know
the
what you're
21st.
going through, so
Yeah.
right.
I'm referring to you.
It doesn't matter.
21st?
Okay, so let's have Mr.
21st of
Fauché in on the
what?
21st. Is that too late, Randy, are we pressing our luck on that one?
Hard for me to say. I think they'd like to do it as soon as possible. That's.
Well, look at, on the
going into November.
21st is a bit out
See
there.
how quick you forget.
The
We'd have to go to the
18th.
the 18th.
Randy's, I'm getting some pushback over here from Randy.
Randy, I guess, I
You
mean,
got the housing authority
check-
interviews coming in on that time?
check to see if they can do the 5th then at 10:30, and if they need to, then we'll do that, and if not, we can move it to the 18th.
Okay, so, well, the 5th, I don't think it'll take a lot of time, really. Let's shoot for the 5th, and if not, then the 18th would be the backup. Can I have a
Okay.
motion for that?
So move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I have one last piece of business here in terms of correspondence, and this is from Mr. Dang, D-A-N-G. He's the owner of Quan Am Market, LLC, DBA Broadway, located at 855 Broadway. Would like to change hour to sell beverages from beginning at 10 a.m. On Sunday, as several others have asked in the past, so I would ask for a motion in this.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so done.
And that'll be all open anyway.
I see no press, Any emergency business?
None.
None, sir.
No citizen input? May I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn, pay the bills, no business to be conducted after.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So done. Good evening, folks.